occurred with us for a lecture at National Taiwan University. And our event will be hosted by NTU's Vice President Ding Stone. As you can see, we have a full house today, highlighting the significance of the event. This event is organized by NTU's Graduate Institute of Journalism and the Center of Bilingual Education, in collaboration with the Harvard Student Exchange Association. We have many distinguished guests in the audience. So before we start the speech, let's have a group photo together. So that's the most important thing before the speech. So the photography, please prepare. So everyone prepare your big smile and look at the camera. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, at the time you show your smile, we have the VIPs from National Taiwan University. We have the 教务长王洪仁、国际事务长袁孝维 and we have the special guests from MODA 数发部部长唐凤、次长阙和明、公共电视董事长胡元辉台湾微软的全球助理法务长施立成，同时也是台湾美国商会的会长金庆国华硕公司集团资安长、台湾资安主管联盟会长，还有简宏伟我们前行政院资安处首任的处长非常多的 VIP 我们来不及一一因为今天时间非常的紧凑We have a very tense schedule today. So now let's have a big welcome to our Executive Vice President Ding Shitong. Yeah, welcome to be on the stage to introduce our speaker today. Thank you.
Okay, Director Ockert, and ladies and gentlemen, and all the distinguished guests and honorable participants today, I would like to extend my heartfelt welcome for everybody of you join today's speech. And I am Stone Ding, the Executive Vice President for National Taiwan University. 今天非常高兴来到这里。欢迎我们 AIT 的处长。台湾跟美国的关系呢，一直都是非常的紧密。那过去借由这个学术的合作、文化的交流，以及技术的合作跟产业方面的发展，我们有非常非常密切的这个台美的这个关系。那值得注意的是，今年在美国，它公布它的晶片法案，为了考量说提供全世界非常安定的这个半导体晶片。 那也为了让产业的发展更加的健全，那所以他们公布了这个法案。那其实，在公布这个法案的时候，我们就了解说，美国大概对台湾也蛮尊敬的了哈。那他觉得说，我们台湾是在半导体的这个产业里面是具有非常关键的实力的这个国家，所以他就提出了很多希望能够跟台湾合作的这个面向。 那其实我们校长陈文章校长在5月份的时候就去一趟美国，在8月份的时候又再去一次美国。那其实8月份去的时候，我们跟那个 University of Illinois System 签订一个 MOU， 希望能够合作的面向包含半导体，包含quantum technology， 包含其他的生医方面的研究。那所以其实有很多人才培育也好，或者是学术的交流也好，那甚至这个研究的合作也好，都放在 MOU 里面。那上礼拜，我们的代表团代表台湾12所顶尖大学的代表团又到 Texas 去。这一次我们跟 Texas A&M 签订 MOU， 跟 University of Texas 也签订 MOU， 希望能够就不管是半导体的研究啦、人才的培育啦，或是针对这个华语文啊，或是针对生医啊，甚至 Texas A&M 的 University President 要求我们要跟我们的农业科技来做合作，所以也签订了这样的 MOU。所以其实两国的这部分的这个合作其实非常之多。那各位都知道说，在2020年，美国跟台湾签署了一个台美的这个教育 initiative。那个 initiative 是说，在全世界我们看起来，那台湾的中文教育是最优的地方。所以我们台湾的这个教育部跟这个美国讨论的结果，就我们开始成立所谓的优华语的计划，就是这华语 best 啊。那在这个计划底下，其实台大也做了不少事。台大在跟美国的6个大学合作，建立了这个华语文的，包含说我们把师资introduce 到他们那边去，那也把他们的学生请到台湾来学习这个华语文。然后呢，我们甚至呢在 University of Indiana 设立一个中心，就是希望能够介绍更多的老师到美国大学去帮忙做华语文的这个教育。那实际上呢 ，AIT 非常对台湾非常的帮忙，他们介绍了这个Fulbright EMI 的 program 来协助台湾，因为台湾政府在这个3年前就开始揭示了说，我们希望在台湾的这个双语教育能够做得更好，能够做得更快，所以 Fulbright EMI 的 team 就进到台湾来。现在有6个大学里面有好多的专家在协助我们，不管是老师的这个专长的 development， 或者是这个学生助教的这个培养等等，那对台湾的帮助其实蛮大的哈。那这些事情都要告诉大家，是说台湾跟美国跟台湾的关系非常密切。我们有很多可能的合作，不仅是在语文啊，不仅在科技合作、教育不仅在产业的合作，有诸多的面向，我们可以有这样共同的这个开发的这个结果。那我们其实今天呢，我们其实非常荣幸的邀请到Sandra 来到我们中间哈。各位知道说Director Oker 他其实开始的第一个外派任务就是到台湾来，现在呢，在他 career 的中段，又到台湾来当我们的这个 AIT 的这个处长，实在是莫大的缘分。他同时也是 AIT 的第一位女性的处长，所以他带来了除了30年的这个外交的经验之外，他也带来了非常女性的温柔啊、敏感啊，对我们台湾的这个人们的需求啊，有很多的考虑啊，所以其实这一点是我们非常 appreciative。那他除了来台湾之外呢，他也去过土耳其当过外交人员，去过纽西兰，去过澳洲去过这个很多的国家，30年的这个外交经验，来到台湾服务我们，让我们觉得莫大的荣幸啊！所以 ，Please join me to welcome Sandra.
Thanks for Vice President Ding's opening remarks. Now, please join me in welcoming Director Sandra Oker, who will be delivering a captivating lecture.
So first off, I want to start by really thanking NTU Vice President Ding for a fantastic introduction. And really to thank NTU for letting me be here today to make this speech. I really appreciate it. As Vice President Ding mentioned, there are a lot of dignitaries in the room. I do want to really thank Minister Audrey Tang and AmCham Chairman Vincent Scher for being here today. A lot of what I am going to talk about includes things that I've learned from both of you. And so I'm a little bit embarrassed. I'm kind of quoting you and referring to you, so hopefully I won't get anything wrong. But to officially start, Vice President Ding, members of the faculty, students, good afternoon. Wuan, Daja Hao. It is a real honor to be here today, and I want to thank NTU for its long-standing partnership with AIT, which has helped to further the U.S.-Taiwan relationship through people-to-people educational and cultural exchange. I've made several visits to NTU since beginning my tenure as AIT director, and I have always been impressed by the hospitality of the community and the wonderful learning environment that you have built here. I first lived in Taiwan in the early 90s, just a few years after the end of martial law, and I am thoroughly impressed by Taiwan's democratic transition. It is clear there is a broad, nonpartisan commitment in Taiwan society that unites political parties, the private sector, civil society, and academia in defense of a free, open, and democratic society. Taiwan is indeed, as we so often say, a model of democracy. And university students and faculty played a crucial role in driving these changes over the last several decades. So it is really fitting for me to be speaking here today on what we could think of as the next generation challenges to democratic systems. Today, I want to focus my remarks on cyber attacks and online information manipulation, a shared set of challenges that the United States and Taiwan can address together. But before I delve into that topic, I'd like to first outline how my work and that of our team here at AIT fits into this broader discussion. As you have all probably heard before, the United States enjoys a robust, unofficial relationship with Taiwan. At AIT, we work with our counterparts here in Taiwan to advance a shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific that is connected, prosperous, secure, and resilient. And AIT is working every day to expand our cooperation with Taiwan on our many shared interests and values. We will continue to support Taiwan's meaningful participation in the international community, and we will work to deepen our economic ties, all consistent with our One China policy. Just this year, the United States served as the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation host economy, and we witnessed up close and personal Taiwan's meaningful contribution to APEC ministerials and other important meetings throughout the year, including during the APEC Leaders Week in San Francisco last month. Taiwan played a truly significant role in a series of APEC events this year that were focused on digital innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship, and has worked closely with other APEC economies to help reduce the digital divide and encourage economic growth through digital transformation. We encourage Taiwan to continue to play this role in APEC and other fora. So since I first lived here in the 1990s, which I know was a long time ago for those of you who are not sitting in the front two rows, the U.S.-Taiwan partnership has steadily deepened. And at the same time, the United States and Taiwan face a regional and global landscape that is more challenging and more complex than ever before. As President Biden noted during his meeting with President Xi Jinping on the margins of the APEC summit in San Francisco, the United States and the PRC are engaged in intense competition. But the world expects the United States and China to manage this competition responsibly. The United States will always stand up for its interests, its values, and its allies and partners, including Taiwan. U.S. support for Taiwan remains rock solid, principled, and bipartisan, and that support is entirely consistent with our One China policy and long-standing commitments. We firmly believe that the U.S. commitment to Taiwan contributes to the maintenance of peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and helps create a more stable and resilient region. A key focus that I have for AIT's cooperation with Taiwan is the urgent need for both of us to more effectively counter cybersecurity threats. Cybersecurity is among our top strategic goals at AIT because it lies at the nexus of national security and economic security. Cyber attacks worldwide are growing in both scale and sophistication as cyber criminals adapt their strategies and tactics to disrupt networks, steal intellectual property, and conduct cyber espionage. It is no secret that critical infrastructure and prominent companies in both the United States and Taiwan have been and continue to be the target of cyber hacks, data breaches, and ransomware attacks. Taiwan is both a key node in the global ICT supply chain and an important physical link in the network of undersea telecommunications cables spanning the globe, and has also become a test bed for cyber intrusions from hostile actors. As Taiwan Minister of Digital Affairs Audrey Tang has noted publicly many times, Taiwan is subject to significant counterattacks, including a campaign of highly coordinated, multifaceted attacks targeting Taiwan's civic infrastructure, amounting to a potent mix of cyber manipulation and interference. These malicious activities have the goal of not only disrupting day-to-day life, but also hollowing out democratic institutions and carry the threat of future escalation. Taiwan primarily faces cyber threats from one state actor, while the United States is subject to cyber threats from a variety of state, non-state, and criminal actors. The ransomware attack against Colonial Pipeline in 2021 resulted in a 6-day shutdown of the pipeline network that supplies more than half of all the liquid fuel used on the east coast of the United States. The SolarWinds hack in 2020, which was attributed to Russian-based hacker groups, impacted thousands of organizations globally, including many U.S. government entities, and triggered a large-scale supply chain disruption. And the WannaCry ransom attack in 2017 targeted Microsoft systems, resulting in billions of dollars in damage to organizations over 150 countries. It even caused TSMC to temporarily halt production at several of its facilities. The fact that the United States and Taiwan share this common challenge makes it even more important that we work together as partners and learn from each other to bolster cyber critical infrastructure and societal resilience. Stability, safety, and security in cyberspace are critical to societal resilience. Understanding this principle, the Biden-Harris administration is taking key measures to prioritize and elevate cybersecurity in the United States and with trusted partners, including Taiwan. In March of this year, the administration launched the 2023 National Cybersecurity Strategy. As the strategy states, and I will quote, "In this decisive decade, the United States will reimagine cyberspace as a tool to achieve our goals in a way that reflects our values: economic security and prosperity, respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, trust in our democracy and democratic institutions, and an equitable and diverse society." End quote. The United States will work with our allies and partners, including Taiwan, to counter threats to our digital ecosystem and to build secure, reliable, and trustworthy global supply chains for information and communications technology. As the United States and Taiwan both work to safeguard public and private data and networks from cyber threats, I am proud of the work we have already done together. We are working together to prevent and investigate cybercrime, to provide capacity-building training for Taiwan cyber professionals and policymakers, and to build bridges between U.S. and Taiwan industry. In November, we jointly hosted a global cooperation and training framework workshop on human rights in the digital age, including discussions of how to promote cybersecurity and counter malicious cyber activity. Cyberspace is truly a multi-stakeholder arena, and that's why the U.S. Department of Commerce is also prioritizing cybersecurity through public sector engagement. Colleagues at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, who recently visited Taiwan, are in the process of updating NIST's widely adopted cybersecurity framework to version 2.0. This framework provides guidance to industry, government agencies, and other organizations to manage cybersecurity risks. It is a voluntary framework, but it's not just for large-scale critical infrastructure providers. Organizations of all sizes and types throughout the world can use the framework to better understand, assess, prioritize, and communicate their cybersecurity efforts. Just as in the United States, I believe that here in Taiwan, robust industry engagement is essential to ensuring that cyber policies reflect the full expertise of all the key players in cyberspace. Private industry possesses many of the most advanced capabilities and tools to address and mitigate cyber risks, as well as first-hand experience in protecting public and private networks, including critical infrastructure. Taiwan can leverage all of these capabilities by involving private industry in the policy-making process, which will further ensure that industry players are fully committed to cyber policies once they are put into effect. In this way, Taiwan can best fulfill President Tsai's stated mandate to enhance the island's cybersecurity resilience. And I'm going to now take a drink of water because I've been talking for a long time. All right, so now I will change to the second topic, which is a related focus I have for AIT, and that is working with Taiwan counterparts to combat the influence of online information manipulation on our democracies. As we all know, the development of the internet, not to mention emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, has enabled incredible innovation and economic growth that benefits our societies and the world at large. But at the same time, new technologies always pose new risks, including in this case, enabling a dramatic rise in the spread and impact of online information manipulation, sometimes for criminal ends, and often to manufacture polarization and to foster societal division. Even AIT itself has been targeted. A recent analysis by a major multinational technology company revealed that covert influence operations carried out by a state-sponsored actor have pushed a new wave of messages criticizing AIT and sowing falsehoods about us. Some of the same cyber actors who target our critical infrastructure and private sector networks also manipulate information online to harm our democracies. Information manipulation is not simply a matter of public diplomacy. It is a challenge to the integrity of the inherently global information space, as well as a security issue. As open democratic societies, the United States and Taiwan are on the front lines as we grapple with the spread of disinformation, a term we use to describe information that is intentional, harmful, and false, and propaganda, particularly as foreign actors seek to use social media and emerging technologies to manipulate public discourse, to divide the public, to sow discord, influence our elections, and essentially undermine the confidence in our democratic institutions. This threat is particularly worrisome in the context of democratic elections, the treasured process by which free societies choose how and by whom they would like to be governed. The United States, Taiwan, and many others have witnessed how intentional manipulation of information can undermine people's faith in the democratic process and in democracy itself. Without public trust in free and fair elections, the ability of our democracies to thrive is at risk. And that is why the United States, along with Taiwan and many other partners around the world, participated in the Global Declaration on Information Integrity Online, which seeks to counter the erosion of accurate, trustworthy, and reliable information that people can access. Information manipulation contributes to the weakening of democratic engagement and hinders open public debate on important issues that affect all of us and that are crucial for democracies to thrive. Access to diverse and reliable sources of information, and ultimately a shared set of facts, is essential for a well-functioning society. This enables people to form opinions, hold their leaders accountable, and actively participate and feel ownership in the community and the world around them. As Minister Tang has noted, information integrity is the cornerstone of trust, whether it's identifying an individual, an organization, or a document. And building this digital trust is an urgent task for leaders and policymakers. It's vital for the survival of the digital industry, a robust civil society community, and indeed the longevity of our democratic institutions. There is no better time to have this discussion and to have reliable information than during election season. As Taiwan gets closer to its elections, I want to emphasize that the United States has deep confidence in Taiwan's electoral processes and democratic system. We believe it is for the Taiwan voters to decide their next leader, free from outside interference. And as I have said many times before, the United States is not taking sides in Taiwan's election. We do not have a preferred candidate, and we know very well that we do not have a vote. U.S. policy on Taiwan will remain the same, regardless of which party is in power. We support Taiwan's vibrant democracy and look forward to working with whichever leaders Taiwan voters elect in 2024. I firmly believe that democracy is the form of government with the greatest capacity to safeguard human rights, fundamental freedoms, and the dignity of every person, as well as to advance peace, prosperity, and security globally. Democracies are best able to serve those functions when there is an environment of free and open exchange of information and ideas. disinformation has the potential to drown out these vital discussions, misshape beliefs, and misform policy preferences. Information manipulation can instigate violence, erode our trust in media and public institutions, and affect whether or even how people exercise their right to vote. And as a result, effectively ensuring information integrity is essential to protecting our democracy and upholding our national security. Addressing the challenge of information manipulation will require the efforts of not only officials, but all of us who have a stake in this issue. Companies, non-governmental organizations, educational institutions, the media, and perhaps most significantly, an active and informed public. It is critical for multiple stakeholders to continue to find ways to share information, best practices, and lessons learned. Civil society and the academic community are well placed to help identify and expose trends in information manipulation and to offer technical expertise on the ever-evolving methods used by hostile actors. To that end, the United States will continue to support efforts to strengthen civil society and media literacy in Taiwan, in the Indo-Pacific region, and beyond. These efforts involve a wide range of partners and stakeholders: officials, media, private sector entities, educators, civil society organizations, all of us working together to ensure everyone has the tools and skills that they need to think critically about the information they consume and to make informed decisions. Through these global efforts, we can effectively raise public consciousness and awareness about information manipulation. A public that is more media literate is able to better assess the validity of the information it encounters through various media sources and to make well-informed decisions. Given all this, we must continue to work together to identify and bring attention to attempts to manipulate information to harm our societies. We must continue to collaborate as partners to bolster resilience and to counter cyber attacks. We must support one another in these critical areas because that is what partners do. We work together to confront shared challenges and to identify solutions. We look forward to working with Taiwan in the spirit of partnership on these issues. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you. 谢谢大家.
Thank you, Director Oldkirk, for the enlightening talk. Now we will move on to the question and answer section. Vice President Ding, please get on the stage and raise the questions on behalf of the audience. 好，那把握机会哈，帮我们现场的媒体跟观众稍微 wrap up 一下哈。第一个非常感谢哈，我想Director Oldkirk 第一个哈，他提到哈这个美国跟台湾有非常坚实的，即使是 unofficial 的关系，好，肯定台湾的民主。第二个，好。那个 cyber resilience 这个是非常非常重要的议题，然后它需要多方合作。那第三个就是怎么样合作对抗假讯息。那在这边我想跟台湾的我们的数发部其实有非常好的，还有我们的民间的各个 stakeholder 有非常好的合作关系。第四个针对选举，我想 Director 再次强调美国不选边站，支持台湾的民主体系，然后也深信。台湾的我们长期下来努力的民主的成果将可以继续维持我们自由开放的环境。好，谢谢。Now let's move on to the Q&A section, please.
Okay, before this speech, we actually collect questions from the audience who registered for this today's event, and we have collected several questions to ask Sandra. So I hope that you answer truthfully.
Well, I have 2 waters here, so I should be ready to go.
Okay, let's prepare the truth serum first. So the first question actually is from me. Personally, I just have one question, so anyway. So over the past 3 years of your term, the U.S. and Taiwan relations have remained quite strong and continue to grow. And in your view, what would be the key point that then we have so to kind of ensure this kind of relationship?
So thank you very much for that question. I think first off, over the past 3 years since I arrived here, our relationship at the very beginning was already at a very high level. So I can't claim credit for doing anything to improve it. I think we have, between the United States and Taiwan, an alignment of values and interests that is very natural, it's very complementary, and it's very strong. We see that for sure on the economic front, where we really do have a complementary, sort of mutually beneficial economic relationship. I think we see that in politics. Support for Taiwan is one of the only bipartisan areas of consensus in Washington. It's a precious thing to have, and Taiwan really does have it. So I think that we're in a very natural place, and AIT works hard to nurture that. I really do firmly believe it will continue to grow.
所以他认为说，双方先找到共同的兴趣跟能力，然后可以 align 我们彼此之间的 interests. But do you think that I actually listened quite carefully. You mentioned 6 times democratic system, democracy. Do you think that democracy has anything to do with the both sides relations?
Oh, absolutely. So when I say we have an alignment of values, that alignment of values is founded on the fact that we have a mutual appreciation for and support for democracy. You know, democracies get along well together. Democracies have a common set of values, a common set of definitions and understandings that we all work within.
How about higher education? Because I know that in the U.S., you provide really good quality higher education, and a lot of our faculties actually are graduated from the U.S. For instance, at NTU, National Taiwan University, about 55% of the faculty members get their degree from the U.S. university. Do you think that has anything to do with these two sides of relations?
I think it does. So first off, I'm going to say I bet I gave visas to some of the NTU faculty, because when I first worked in Taiwan in the 90s, I was a visa officer. Probably I interviewed, and it was a fantastic experience. But Taiwan today is the 6th largest source of foreign students in the United States. It's been a top 10 source of foreign students in the United States since I worked here in 1992. So it's not just the NTU faculty, it's all over Taiwan. You know, so many people have gone to school in the US, or if they haven't, their aunts and uncles, sons and daughters, you know, cousins. There's a great familiarity with America here. And because of all those students in the United States, there's a familiarity with Taiwan in the United States. So that sort of people-to-people relationship is foundational. It's really crucial.
So would you suggest to give more scholarship for Taiwanese students?
I'm just going to say one of the nicest things I did in my first assignment was the student visa afternoons, like a whole afternoon of talking to some of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life.
Okay, thank you. So NTU student is really good. Okay. And then the second question is from the audience. So I ask all the hard questions from audience, not from me. So what does the U.S. government think about the information warfare attacks from China? And how do Americans think about the response to have the cyber attack on Taiwanese people?
Okay, so the United States thinks a lot about information or cyber attacks or information or election manipulation. 2024 is an election year in the United States as well. Unlike here in Taiwan, which has a very stable and sort of tamper-proof electoral system, every electoral district in the United States has a different system. And there have been questions in the past about the integrity of those systems. So people are concerned about it. I think, though, Americans, like everyone else, they look first through the lens of themselves before they think about other places. So when we think about information manipulation in the United States, we think about information in the United States being manipulated, and lacking some sort of giant problem in Taiwan. Americans, unless they're deep into the cyber or kind of disinformation kind of field, probably aren't thinking much about Taiwan because Taiwan does such a good job. So Taiwan is not making news in this area.
其实我觉得这个问题应该问唐凤部长。Okay, next time we will ask Audrey for that question. So anyway, the third question also from the audience, and you also actually talk about common challenges, and also help. You mentioned about help us to ensure the media literacy and all that. This question is related to that. What do you see as the areas in which the U.S. can assist Taiwan in the field of cybersecurity? In addition, Washington is considering a ban on TikTok. So what is the director's opinions on the ban on TikTok?
Okay, so I will do TikTok first. So here's my phone. This is a U.S. government provided phone. I've never been able to put TikTok on it. So, and you know, as you all know, probably anyone who's ever looked at my Facebook or Instagram, I have children that are kind of university student, graduate student aged. I think as a responsible parent, I have encouraged them not to post things on the internet that they wouldn't want their future employer to see. You know, this is, I'm sure all of you in the back, you've heard your parents say the same thing too. Please don't do it. No pictures with big parties. But I think TikTok and other sort of social media platforms, apps, you know, the reason why TikTok can't go on a US government device is because it doesn't provide the sort of information security, information assurance that the US government is comfortable with. We have certainly seen, and I'm going to go very far afield, we've certainly seen that US soldiers, Russian soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers in places far from home have had sort of like fitness apps on their watch, and their enemy has been able to figure out where they are because they've looked them up on Strava or some other sort of like Fitbit kind of thing. So we think, and I would say, you know, even people who are older than traditional students think of these devices as harmless entertainment, or it's a way to help you, you know, count your steps. But if the data isn't secure, if you don't know where it's going once your phone or your watch or your ring collects it, people who really who do not have your best interests at heart can harvest that data. And they can use it on the battlefield, they can use it to collect information about you that blackmail you for it. They can steal your bank account information. So really having data integrity and really knowing where your data is going is important. This is something that we do work with Taiwan on, and I would say it's not just the United States assisting Taiwan. Taiwan also assists the United States. This is very much a peer relationship where we learn from each other. You know, we have teams that compete with each other at sort of hackathons. Sometimes Taiwan wins, sometimes the United States wins, sometimes other people do. The technology firms compete with one another, they collaborate with one another. Our law enforcement communities are engaged in deep conversations about how to collect evidence to prosecute cases about online scams and other cyber-enabled crimes. So I think there's really just a full spectrum level of cooperation.
Okay, so it actually goes both ways. Not only the U.S. can help us, but we can help them too. We have Audrey here. Your job. Okay, the next question is from the audience too. What is the U.S. policy on Taiwan as we approach the People Republic of China's political military establishment's milestone years of 2027 and 2035? will the United States be forced to abandon Taiwan? When interests with China take precedence?
I will say the answer to that is no. So the U.S. policy towards Taiwan, the U.S. sort of one China policy, has persisted now for decades. The policy is not changing. It has bipartisan support. It not only has bipartisan support, so the Republican Party and the Democratic Party both support it, but there's a consensus between the administration and Congress. And getting that level of consensus on any policy is really difficult. But this has persisted since 1979. So President Biden, when he was Senator Biden, voted for the Taiwan Relations Act. We had Senator Markey visited Taiwan not long ago. He also voted for the Taiwan Relations Act. So there are people, at the highest levels of the U.S. government who were involved in drafting the law that is the sort of governing legal document for AIT's existence and the unofficial relationship that we have here. So I think that the policy has withstood a lot. It's withstood a lot of change over many decades, and it can withstand more.
Okay, thank you very much. But a moment ago, you were talking about the U.S. support to Taiwan is rock solid. Is it still stand like that?
Yes, yeah, it is. I mean, I cannot think of a single other policy in Washington that is as strongly supported by both parties, by both the administration and the Congress, and that is popular with the American people. Which is fundamentally what makes a policy durable.
Okay, thank you. The next one is from the audience too. As the first female director in AIT history, what are the advantages and disadvantages of your roles? Is there any advice for future female diplomats based on your experiences?
Does this mean we're moving to the easy questions now?
I don't know. There are still several of them.
Okay, so yes, I am the first female director in AIT history. I'm sure I will not be the last. But being the first gives me the ability to be creative, to do things that are not exactly the same as the people before me have done. No one is going to confuse me with my predecessor. They look at me and they're not like, oh, that's obviously Brent Christensen. So it gives me some creativity to do different things because, quite frankly, I look different. And coming up as a professional woman over the course of the last 30 years, I have become very comfortable with looking different than the other people at the table or in the room. So, and in fact, this is a conversation that I've had with women in the American Diplomatic Service before. In the 1990s, in the early 2000s, somebody like me was the only person who looked like me who sat at the table. I was lucky. Sometimes I didn't get to sit at the table. I sat like on the side, against the wall. And so I'm used to being kind of singular. Now, it's a good thing that there are more women in diplomacy, more women in professional life, but that feeling of being alone, I don't know if in Taiwan you have the game where you play which one of these is not like the others. Professionally, I was the one who was not like the others for like 2 decades. So I think that getting comfortable with being visible is something that's probably going to be weirdly harder for young professional women today than it was for people of my generation, because we had no choice. There was no group you could hide in. You were always, the woman. In fact, the first year that I worked at AIT's visa office, I was the only female visa officer. And I was the only female visa officer I think they'd had in a number of years. So when someone got refused and they were asked, who refused you? They said, nigga nuda. So, and then the next year there were some more female officers, so I could like hide in the group. But yes, I'm very used to that. And I think, you know, it's not necessarily bad, because at the beginning of your career it makes you feel very awkward to be singled out. But then as you become more prominent and more successful, you're singled out by your position, but I find that I am comfortable with it in a way that I suspect some of my male colleagues aren't, because they've always been like another man in a gray suit.
So now the next one will be a serious question, because the woman become more and more powerful. You think is it time to develop how to protect the man?
No, no. I think, though, I really hope that we get to a point where we are choosing the right person for a job, and we are not worrying about the person's gender or last name or what their mother tongue is at home. We are looking for the person who has the right skills for the job and who can get the job done. I think, though, in order to get to that place, we have to make sure that everybody feels comfortable competing. And certainly I know at the beginning of my career, everybody did not feel comfortable competing. I think that is still a challenge today. And so, but I think we will get there.
So how do you, the next question from the audience, how do you compare Taiwan's gender equality environment to other places you have been? You have been to 6, 7, 8 different countries. And what else can Taiwan do to provide better opportunities for young women like you, or you in the audience?
So I will say, I think Taiwan has done a great job on female political participation in particular. Obviously, the president of Taiwan is female. The percentage of legislative UN members who are female is the highest in Asia. It's one of the highest in the world. There's, I mean, it's the rare magistrate or mayor that I meet who's not female. So I think in some areas, Taiwan has done really well. I will admit, though, when I go to sort of like business type meetings, tends to be pretty much entirely male. So clearly there are issues in society where women have found a lot of success in some spheres. Politics is one of them. The government is another. The civil service appears to be very friendly to women, judging by the number of successful women in the civil service. Universities as well, lots of women. So I think that, you know, Taiwan is an example for the societies around it. In many ways, an example for the United States. Many of those ratio numbers are better here than they are at home in America.
You know, at NTU, there are 2 female executive vice presidents, only 1 male executive vice president. And while they are having fun out there, they asked me to host this talk. So you know, we need to be protected too.
You know, I wouldn't go quite that far. I will say, though, so at the beginning of my career, like I said earlier, I was frequently the only woman in the room, or then the only woman who was sitting at the table, not against the wall. And I have been to a couple of meetings here where the entire AIT side coincidentally was female, and the entire, you know, so Taiwan side was also female except for like one guy. And you could see he was looking a little uncomfortable, and I remember just thinking, welcome to my world. Because like I said earlier, I think it is important that everyone be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Like, everyone should be in that room, whatever the room is about, because they add value to the discussion, because they have something to bring to the table. And, you know, I think there is some discomfort in being the one who doesn't look like everybody else. but it also in many ways makes you stronger and more confident because you know you're there for a reason. And I think that is true of, regardless of who you are, you should feel confident that you've been invited to join whatever event it is or meeting because you add value.
Okay, the next question also from the audience. You seem to have effortlessly adapted to Taiwanese cultural practice and took part in the folk rituals like the Ghost Festival, 中元节. Are there any other local folk ritual that you have participated in during your tenure here?
So during my tenure here, I have visited a variety of temples. I will admit I am not always sure what's going on. But I try and firmly believe in being respectful. But one of the most interesting things I've done, you mentioned the Pudu ceremony that we had at AIT. One of the most interesting things that I've had the privilege of being able to participate in was actually Feng Nian Jie in Hualien. So I went with John Dow, and at the invitation of the head of the Council for Indigenous Affairs, and it was amazing. I got to meet a lot of people. I saw a side of Taiwan that I think is not really readily apparent to either foreigners or people who live in like Taipei. And it was interesting and enjoyable and quite a lot of fun.
But I'm wondering, which kind of ghost do you pay your respect to? Is a Taiwanese ghost or American ghost during the Pudu?
So, as the American representative, I feel a need to cover those expat ghosts.
In the same subject, I also know that you have visited many different places in Taiwan. Anything besides the Feng Nian Ji you are interested in and or you are impressed?
Gosh, I think I have now visited, so I just finished, I have visited all of, I guess you would call them the major jurisdictions in Taiwan, the counties and cities. Oh, wow. That's like asking someone, which is your favorite child? That's like a trick question. I thought I was here having easy questions. No, I think, the thing that impresses me the most about Taiwan is that in a place that is geographically relatively small, you have culturally distinct practices, foods, languages that are rich and varied and that appear, at least to a foreigner, to be mutually respected by the people around them. So I said I went to Hualien for the Feng Nian Jie with the Council of Indigenous Peoples lead. I was just in Miaoli with the head of the Hakka Council. And they have a really nice museum there that sort of talks about the protection of the Hakka language over time. And, it's clearly Taiwan's democratic evolution has not been without struggle. There was, I think, quite a lot of struggle. But the place that Taiwan is right now is a place that most of the world really would, if they knew more about it, would really envy. You have a diverse society that is friendly to one another, where people are interested in each other and not necessarily co-opting. I really think it's fantastic. I am continually impressed by it, and I feel like, and this is one of the problems with a democracy, everyone always thinks we could be better. We should do this better. The message that I have, particularly to the students, because coming out of a couple of years of COVID, most of you have probably not left Taiwan recently. boy, compared to the rest of the world, you live in a great place. You really do.
That's actually a point I want to ask. I want to add. In Taiwan, I think Taiwanese people treat international foreigners much better than treating ourselves. I don't know why, but it's like a custom. We treat other people better. So foreigners in Taiwan is well treated. And second point that I want to add is, if you are living in any 的大的都市哈 metropolitan big cities, you can go out in 9, 10, 12, even 1 o'clock in the night and feel safe. So Taipei or other cities in Taiwan is actually relatively much safer than any other international cities. So welcome American to come to Taiwan, okay? So that's about it, because a director's time is limited. So I would like to conclude today's speech and a question section. And if you like to answer more, you can stand outside too. So I thank you everybody to come to today's speech. And you want to add something?
I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for everyone for coming, for being interested. So for those of you, so I'm going to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And for students, good luck with exams.
Okay, thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Okirk, and thank you, our Executive Vice President Ding Shitong, for the entire talk and Q&A section. So Thai flies, yeah, already also, okay, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much, Director. Well, it's time to draw up event to a close. So on behalf of the organization team, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for your participation and enthusiasm. And 谢谢大家。然后当然我们今天有非常多的媒体朋友来，那当然希望我们这个今天的内容是让大家觉得有一些可以发挥的地方。然后当然再次感谢我们今天来的各位嘉宾跟我们的年轻的朋友，谢谢大家，欢迎大家以后我们会有我想包括台大的双语教育中心、台大新闻所，我们都常举办非常多国际性的活动，欢迎大家可以持续的关注跟参与，谢谢，谢谢，祝大家平安。好，然后刚刚校长也讲了那个 Director 也讲，祝大家尤其是年轻人期末考顺利，谢谢。